Hey, and welcome to the show, and great to be with you. Happy Thanksgiving to American viewers. Hopefully you had a great long weekend. It's wrapping up now. And Canadians, it's our national football championship today. It's kind of like the Canadian version of the Super Bowl. The CFL Grey Cup is one of the oldest trophies, I think, in any major sport. So that's what's going on. Also, so hopefully those of you who had a long weekend are enjoying it. Same thing again this week. I'd really love for you to go to Instagram. The numbers are growing every week. A big thanks to the people that watch this live show, not often live, but maybe after the fact. Go to Motormouth_auto on Instagram and follow along there. Also at Facebook, type in Motormouth car, or you'll see Motormouth and car. That's the page. Like the page. I put news and information and some silly videos and things on there. One big piece of news that was breaking this afternoon I put on Facebook is that here in Canada, General Motors might be shutting down all of their assembly operations in Oshawa, which would be a major devastating blow to the Canadian car industry. So, because I'm here in Canada. So there you go. All right. Oh, one other thing. I don't know when I did it, a couple years ago. I asked people who watch this channel who are into wristwatches, and I've had some people ask about wristwatches when I'm doing the show, about my other YouTube channel, which is very small. I've only got a few videos on there. But people that are interested in wristwatches, I have a YouTube channel called Watch This. Okay, right, wristwatch, get it, watch this. And when this live show is done, I'll put the description below when I send this out for people to watch after the fact, okay? All right, let's get into the live questions, and they're coming in quickly. Maynard Loop says, hey, Zach, hope you had a good week. Could you please upload the show onto SoundCloud? I did set up the SoundCloud account, and if you go to SoundCloud and you type in Motormouth Canada, you'll find it there, and I haven't done it. I haven't updated the audio version of this. So that's basically what it is. If you want to listen on your smartphone on the way to wherever you're going, you can listen. So I will do that. So thanks for the reminder. Charlottetown Spud from the East Coast, from Prince Edward Island. I've owned a Civic Si in the past, and I'm currently in the market for another Si. However, the Type R is tempting, as I've never owned a 200-plus horsepower car before. Am I missing out with the Si? Now, I find interesting is you have a Civic Si. The Civic Si does have 200 horsepower, unless it's a really old one. So, so first you got to drive manual, which I don't think is an issue for you. I think that for an everyday car, the Civic Si is an excellent choice. The R is the ultimate with 300 horsepower, or I think it's just over 300 horsepower. It's a wonderful car. It's actually a nice car to drive every day as well. But I think, it's so much more money. And the Si at just over 200 horsepower is a great choice. Now, an interesting thing that you bring up, the Civic Si, because this week, and the video will be out in the next week, I hope, is the Acura ILX. Has the old 2.4 liter four-cylinder. It's been used in the Acura line for a long time. And it's been a few years since I drove this car. And I got to tell you, I had so much fun driving it. It's got the 8-speed dual clutch, and I know I've been hard on Acura in the past for some of their transmissions, most notably the 9-speed ZF gearbox they use. But the dual clutch with that 2.4 liter with 201 horsepower, it was a great engine and a really good value. So the ILX starts at 30 and tops out at 35 in the Canadian market, and it is a very nice car. So if you want to drive manual, Si is a great choice. If you want to drive with an automatic, that ILX is a really cool car. Someone says, hey, when is driving television going to update the introduction? The cars are so outdated. I totally agree with you. The executive producer of the show, I'll just leave it there. Well, we're working on it. Okay, PTR Gaming, have you heard of if the Mazda CX-5 is coming out soon with the turbocharger? So this week is the Los Angeles Auto Show. I am not going. Mike Gurr is going, as you know. Mike Gurr is a contributor. He just had the new Nautilus video go up this weekend on the channel. So Mike is going to be down there. I think he's actually a guest of Lincoln, so that'll be interesting. I'm not going to the auto show. I go to so many auto shows, so Mike's first chance to go to a big auto show, so he's going to do the coverage this time around. And that is one of the announcements we're expecting to hear is hopefully news on the turbo and the CX-5, hopefully news on the turbo diesel, and also they're going to unveil the new Mazda 3. Any thoughts on the quality of the diesel version of the Santa Fe? So, yeah, so Hyundai made an announcement that they were going to bring the Santa Fe with the diesel when they introduced the new model. This was last February. They made an announcement that they were going to do that. It was right when the Olympics were on in Korea. And they said, oh, they're going to bring the diesel. Now, I went to the Santa Fe launch this summer in Alberta, and they sort of backpedaled a little bit, and they said, we have to wait to see what the Americans want to do with the Santa Fe and if they want to put the diesel into the North American market. Because Canada going alone with the diesel engine for just this market is not going to fly. So they need the Americans on board to do that. So we still don't know if that's going to happen. So stay tuned, as they say. Josh says, hi, Zach, from snowy Montreal. There you go. My mom, after much deliberation and many test drives of many cars, ordered a Volvo XC90 Inscription. What are your thoughts on a family vehicle for comfort? What are your thoughts? I answered this last week, Josh. You mustn't have watched. You probably put the question down, but you didn't watch all the way through. It's a great choice. She's going to love it. And I think that it's a very, very comfortable vehicle. So what I like about your question, though, Josh, is your mom did something that I highly recommend. I get emails all the time. I get questions from people. They say, Zach, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to get this car, that car. And I say, you need to test drive the cars in the conditions that you use it. So your mom obviously did much deliberation and many test drives of many cars and ordered a Volvo XC90. Good for her. And that's what people don't do. They go to the dealer, they see the shiny paint, they listen to the great radio, they're mesmerized by the screens, they take it around the block, that's it. Don't do that. If you go into a dealership and you're going to spend a lot of money on a car, say to the salesperson, I want to go on a proper test drive with this car. And a proper test drive is like, not 5 minutes. Mark just wrote, what do you think of the GM Oshawa plant closing? Now, I just read that news. That just before I came on the air here on YouTube, that it hadn't been confirmed. It's rumors. But if it is true, and General Motors is closing their assembly plant in Oshawa, and it's been there for many, many years, I think that's really sad. What's interesting, though, is General Motors Canada and General Motors, out of Michigan, has invested so much in Canada in new high tech. They have a new high tech facility they're building in Toronto. They have an advanced technology center. They've just opened, I think, within the last year. Canada is going to be spearheading the autonomous driving research and development is going to be done in Canada. So for them to shut down production, I don't get it. I really don't know what's happening. My only thing that I can think of is the steel tariffs that Trump implemented. The aluminum and steel tariffs are just so high that maybe there's just not enough in it to do the cars in Canada. I don't know. It's sad. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. Josh writes back and says she's trading in the last gen Q7 that she hated. That's the person that's getting the Volvo. Yeah, it's a very different car. What you'll notice right away with the Volvo is it feels very light. Even though it's a big vehicle, it feels very light, easy to drive. And I think for a lot of women, that will be something that they probably like. Zaki Nassim says, hey, Zach, what's up with the CRV oil dilution issue? Should I still consider buying one instead of the CX-5? You know what's interesting? So this whole issue that's popped up around the Honda engines and oil and coolant mixing together, it's most notable in areas that have cold climates, so northern states in Canada, and reported in China. And I haven't heard much of a solution for this. And it's interesting, I was speaking to a chief engineer of a rival car company, and I asked him, how would this happen? And he maybe speculated, he doesn't know the answer, but he speculated that it might be not an engineering issue, but a manufacturing issue. There might have been some faulty parts that went into the cars that caused this. So here's the thing. They have to get ahead of this, because people that watch blogs like this and people that watch and read car information are the people in the family that distribute information. So I was the car enthusiast in my family. I was always the one that read all the magazines back in the day. So I was kind of like the mini car expert in my family. And I'm sure a lot of people that watch this, you're the sort of enthusiasts in your family. And once that information gets out into the public that there could be, I'm not saying there is a widespread issue with that, they're really going to have to do some work, especially in light of the fact that, the new RAV4 is just arriving next month. So it's a wait and see. I don't think it's hitting every vehicle. And one of the main reasons is that engine is used in a lot of other products, right? So it's used in that 1.5 liter. So we'll have to wait and see. Jake says 18 Mercedes-Benz CLE, CLA, or C-Class. That is an easy one, a C-Class. The CLA, and here's the thing is that they're so aggressive with leasing, particularly on those entry-level cars, whether it's the BMW 3 Series, the A4, or the C-Class from Mercedes-Benz. You can get some really nice deals on those, especially if you're leasing, and it's a much better car. It really is. Daniel Chan, hey Zach, do U.S. review sites like Consumer Reports, Kelley Blue Book, and IIHS for Safety do U.S. review sites like those, or even American reviews of similar cars, apply to Canadian versions of the same? Yes, for the most part. So if you're looking up quality information from Consumer Reports, and if you're looking up information from Kelley Blue Book, that's the one exception. But the IIHS safety for sure, and the government safety test they do in the United States, it's safecar.gov is their website there. Kelley Blue Book, no, because the Canadian and American markets are so different because they buy like almost 20 million cars a year and we buy 2. So the markets are very different. What you want to do though, if you're looking for a value guide, is go to Canadian Black Book. Canadian Black Book is a great service. It's all public. They just updated the website this past week. And when you're on the website, you'll see videos, and they're done by me. So I do some work for Canadian Black Book. But yeah, that wouldn't apply in Canada, the Blue Book, so you want Black Book. But Consumer Reports for sure, and for safety, yes. Here's the thing is, for the EPA, for emissions testing and fuel economy, pretty much Canada piggybacks on the US. Same thing for car safety. So they're the same. Mo says, Zach, any updates on the 2020 Soul? I heard it's going to be revealed at the LA show. Yes, it's going to be revealed at the LA show this week. So we'll wait to see. They had a little sneak peek. They sent out an email to me as a few shots. It looks like a Kia Soul. So there's not going to be any surprises on how it looks. And by the way, one of the best cars out there for the money. Just a great product. And I think that the new one will do very, very well. Bruce, Zach, greetings from Mesa, Arizona. Every month there are more 2-liter Ford turbos. Are we at the point where these engines are totally bulletproof? Well, I think that we've been at it now for quite a while. You know what's interesting? I was looking back at some old videos from the TV show that I did, and I think the first Audi A4 with the 2-liter turbo was back in 09, roughly right around there. So here we are 10 years plus. And so the Volkswagen Group was really the first to push into this 2-liter turbo thing. And you can look up the quality ratings of those older cars. But yeah, I think now we're getting to the point where car companies have figured this stuff out. So the real sort of brand that you look to was a very late adapter of this was Toyota and Lexus. So they didn't have a 2-liter turbo like everybody else did until they brought out the NX a few years ago. And so they're starting to move in that way. But yeah, I think that a lot of the 2-liter turbos are probably pretty good, but you want to do individual research on each brand. Ganesh says, Camry XLE Hybrid 2019 or Ultima Platinum Turbo 2019. Which one would you suggest for comfort family? Thanks, Zach. We're fans from Prince Edward Island. Another PEIer. That's such a small province in Canada. It's cool. We've got a disproportionate number of Islanders watching the show. I prefer the Camry because it's got a regular automatic transmission. I just like those personally over a CVT. Now, some people will drive the Ultima with the CVT and you're going to go, great, you know, it's for me. But it's not for me. It might be for you, but it's not for me. And that's why I think this RAV4 is going to clobber pretty much everything out there It's got the 2.5-liter four-cylinder, doesn't have a smaller turbo. It's got an 8-speed automatic, doesn't have a CVT. It's just good, sort of known engineering in a brand new product. And there you go. So for me, I lean more towards the Camry. Now, as an alternative, have a look at the 2-liter turbo Honda Accord. That is the 10-speed automatic, which is actually very good. The 9-speed they used in vehicles like the Pilot, not a big fan, but there you go. Thoughts on the Hyundai Kona Limited with the 1.6-liter turbo? Jake, I suggest you go back onto the channel when we're done here and type in Kona, and you'll find a review I did of that very car. Very surprised by the Kona. Really surprised me how much I liked it. All but the base get independent suspension in the back. The base model gets a torsion beam. Yeah, great car. I drove it up to Whistler and back, and I did a really nice little twisty mountain road. And it handles really well. It's got good power. It is the fastest selling new car in Canada. I know that because I follow the Canadian market. The fastest selling new vehicle introduction of this year is the Kona. It looks good in my opinion. It's right size, nice equipment, and the turbo's great. Bevin says, hey Zach, do you think Honda will come up with a CR-V hybrid because of the competition to the RAV4 hybrid? I think, yeah, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see more and more hybrids. Here's the thing, when I say hybrid, you think Toyota. They have done such a good job of making their brand synonymous with that technology because they had such a head start. The interesting thing is I think the actual first hybrid was the Honda Insight, but Prius arrived and it just dominated, and it has dominated around the world. The interesting thing is, I'm not sure if you'd caught the announcement, but Corolla, the 2020 Corolla is going to be introduced next year in the calendar year 2019, is going to be available with a hybrid. And it's a much better looking Corolla, and the fact it's available as a hybrid similar to the Prius technology, that's going to be really cool. Toyota has committed to having a hybrid in every line of cars that they sell, so now they're going to have them in Corolla, Camry, RAV4, those are mainline cars. Hopefully they'll get one in a Sienna when the Sienna is updated, and then you can start seeing it in pickup trucks. But I would bet that Honda is working on that too. Mac Daddy, hope your day went well. What do you think of Tesla's future? I'm a little more optimistic about Tesla's future now that they're actually able to produce cars in the numbers they had promised a while ago. My big question is the quality. And are they going to be able to deal with quality issues? It's you know, up until now they're a very small producer of cars. Like when you're producing, I think last year it was 80,000 cars annually for all models. So that was Model 3 X and S. That's a small car company, okay? So for example, the Toyota RAV4 production, most of the production, by the way, for RAV4 comes out of Canada. The Cambridge assembly and down towards Woodstock, Ontario. So that car feeds pretty much all of North America except for some that come in from Japan to supplement the US market. That Toyota manufacturing in Canada produces 300,000 of those. And to be able to make something 300,000 times with the reliability and the build quality that Toyota does with RAV4, for example, is a major engineering and technological feat. It really is. And I've been to many car factories, and every single time I go, I'm amazed by the technology that goes into actually putting the cars together. So a few weeks ago, you can watch the video I did of the Beetle Wolfsburg edition, the final Beetle. It's on the channel. We got a chance to go to the second largest Volkswagen plant in the world, which is in Puebla, Mexico. They do 2,300 cars a day. It's amazing. And so my issue with Tesla is, are they going to be able to make hundreds of thousands of cars annually and do it at the quality levels that brands like this can do? We're going to have to wait and see. I posted, and by the way, it's a nice little plug for the Facebook page. Once again, if you want to go to my Facebook page, it's Motormouth Car. You just type in Motormouth, you'll see it, like the page. I just put up a story of a local person here in British Columbia. Their car has been in the repair shop because of an accident since February, okay? So it's almost December. Their car has been in the shop since February because they couldn't get parts and limited people to fix the car. So that's going to be the other issue with Tesla. Are they going to be able to repair cars in a timely fashion? Are they going to have enough service people? All those things. So they're not out of the woods yet. And then you got all the competition coming. Hank, hey Zach, do you know when the Highlander is going to be redesigned? I would suspect it's going to be pretty soon, because the car came out, was it 14 or 13 that the recent one came out. The interesting thing was the Highlander launch, the RAV4 launch they had for this in California was the exact same hotel that we stayed at for Highlander like back then, which was I think 2004. So they're getting very close. It did have a mild facelift a year and a half ago or so. So yeah, it's going to be soon. TC says, hey Zach, huge fan. I'm looking at a 15 Plus WRX. What are your thoughts on it? I think it's a great car. I think it really is a good car. With anything used, you have to do your research. You have to get a Carfax. It used to be called CarProof in Canada. Now it's the same as the United States service, so do a Carfax report. If it's a dealer, they should provide that to you for free. You also want to get the car independently inspected, especially a performance-oriented car like a WRX, because the previous owner might have beat on it. You don't know that. Get it inspected by an independent third party, and depending on where you live, if you can get any insurance claim information on it. So do your due diligence. It's a fine car. A bit sparse on the inside, but a nice car. Derek Burks, hey Zach, is Chrysler a good brand? Is Chrysler as a brand going away, or just the 300? I don't know what they're going to do, because really Chrysler, they have the 300 and they have the Pacifica minivan, and that's it. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, FCA is Jeep and Ram, and those are the mainstays. And here's the interesting thing about the Chrysler 300 and the Dodge Charger. Their highest quality vehicles are those two vehicles, by the way, made in Canada. And they are, they're really well made products. And of all of the vehicles in their quality studies, those two come out at the very top. And the Grand Cherokee's in there as well. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to rebadge the Pacifica into maybe a Grand Caravan. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, there was a movement afoot to change FCA into Jeep Ram or Ram Jeep. Camry 18 V6 has torque lag, 0 to 100. I've seen other YouTube videos and they're saying not good throttle mapping. You agree? Any updates for 2019? I drove the car in when it was the launch, by the way, was in PEI. That's my third PEI reference in this one live show. So we had the launch event and I drove it for half a day. I didn't have enough seat time with it. If I was going to buy a Camry, and I think it's a great product, the one to get, and you're going to be shocked when I say this, the Camry to get is the hybrid. The hybrid is the one to get. Because they've tuned the hybrid system now to give you more torque more often, and it just makes it a much better driving experience. I think the V6 is overkill. I would drive, if you're going to drive it, drive the hybrid. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Charles Ing says, hey Zach, GTI or SI? The only thing, you have to, okay, both are great cars. So the Civic Si, only available with a manual transmission. GTI is available with a dual clutch. SI is only available as the sedan or the two-door coupe. GTI is only available as a 5-door hatchback. The GTI is going to have more functionality when it comes to storing in the cargo area. However, the SI sedan has more room in the back seat. Then you start to add in sort of infotainment systems. Both come with Android and Apple, so that's good news. So you really have to go and sit in these cars and test drive them for yourself. They're both wonderful cars. I think the SI is less expensive, and that might be a consideration. Oh, it was interesting. I had an email from somebody. They were talking about 3 different cars. I think one was CRV, one was Rogue, and one was, I think, a 2018, the existing RAV4. And they're basically distilling which one they think is better and asking me which one I like. And I said, well, they're all fine. You need to drive them all and see what works for your personal situation. And what it came down to at the end was, I think I'm going to go with the CRV because it offers more value, meaning I get a power tailgate, heated rear seats, and those sorts of things, and it's $50 less a month. Now that is often the tiebreaker. So your example of a GTI or an SI, often the tiebreaker is, what does it cost you? And that's where I bring in Car Cost Canada, because they're being a great sponsor of the channel. And Car Cost Canada is exactly what you do when you pay an accountant to do your taxes. You pay an accountant to save you money. So you pay just a little bit and you get money back. That's good, right? So Car Cost Canada, the service is in the name. You get the cost of the car that the dealership paid. That is powerful information. So if you want to look up, and this is a good example of this, you want to look up a 2018 GTI and a 2018 Civic SI, and you go to Car Cost Canada and you do those searches, you'll find out what the dealer paid for the car, any kind of rebates that are on right now, any kind of reduced interest rates, and sometimes there's special things like if you're a graduate, you're a veteran, you're a senior, whatever it is, right? They have all these different first-time buyer, maybe $500 off, those sorts of things. But you're not going to find any of that out by just going into the dealership on your own. So carcostcanada.com, it is free for the first search, and I think you do 5 searches for $39 or something like that. It's not expensive. And trust me, it's like getting a good accountant. Spend a little bit, save the money. That's my plug for Car Cost Canada. This one comes from Tim. Hey, any tips on shopping for a 2 to 3 year old Jeep Grand Cherokee? The shopping tips are what I said to the WRX potential buyer. Do your homework. Really go and find the best possible car you can for the money. Get it inspected, get the Carfax, do the independent work on that. Now, you have to decide kind of what you want, 2 to 3 years old. You've got 3 choices, basically. The 3.6 liter Pentastar, the 5.7 liter Hemi, or the 3 liter diesel, the Eco Diesel, which might be an option as well. So I'm a big fan of the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It is a vehicle that does do well in quality scores. It's one of those FCA products that is a real shining light. It is overdue to be refreshed, but you're looking at a used one. Yeah, I think there's lots out there to choose from. Bevin says, say hi to me because now I follow you on Insta and Facebook. As you said, I love it. Thank you, Bevin. So once again, if you go to Instagram, it's Motormouth_auto. So follow along there. And for Facebook, it's Motormouth Car. Just type it in and like that page. Surprise K, cool name. Hey, Zach, please ask the DTV staff to stop airing episodes with the new Ram, please. Love your work. Yeah, we did do a bit of a Ram-a-thon there, didn't we? We had a lot of Ram stuff on the show. Great truck, though. I mean, a really nice truck. Bruno, hey, Zach, why is the 2018 Focuser being sold with a lot of discount? Are there a lot of cars available? There are a lot of cars available on AutoTrader. Well, I think, you're seeing the shift in the marketplace that's taking place. People are running towards utility vehicles, and a lot of cars are sitting. And here's the thing is, a lot of people are overbuying for their needs. If you just need basic transportation to get to and from work or to and from school or wherever you're going, often a car is going to be more efficient, handle better, and be less expensive to buy. So that's good. If you're motivated by saving money, that's good. Also, there is going to be a new Focus, from what I believe, being introduced. Even though Ford has said they're going to be discontinuing cars, I still think there is going to be a new Focus. Now, it might only be for the European market. So here's another perfect example. So if you think that the vehicles are cheap on AutoTrader and you're looking at it, do exactly what I said. Go to Car Cost Canada. It might be even more money that you can get off of that vehicle. Sean says, hi, Zach. I know there are a lot of dislike from people on the continuously variable transmission, including yourself. What exactly is this dislike about? Is it the noise, the feel of the connection, the power transfer, or something else? For me, it is, and some of them are good. Like the new, which car did I drive? I'm trying to remember now. The new Kia Forte. The new Kia Forte, its CVT is chain driven, it's not belt driven. It was a really good one, to the point, if you can go watch the review, this is what I said. If you put 100 people in that car and told them to drive it, I guarantee you 95 to 99 of those people wouldn't have no idea there's a CVT. Now, the new Corolla hatchback and the upcoming Corolla sedan has the new CVT from Toyota that actually has a mechanical first gear. So that effect where you put your foot on the throttle and then you wait for the the car to catch up to what you're asking it to do. That they call it the motorboat effects. When you push down on the throttle on a motorboat, it takes a while for the boat to get going. That's the feeling some continuously variable transmissions provide, and that's what I don't personally like about them. The noise, that's not a big issue, but they are getting better. Not all of them are bad. I think Subaru has some excellent ones. They have a really nice one in the Forester. So yeah, they're not all bad, but I still like that feeling when you put your foot into the throttle and the transmission kicks down, 2 or 3 gears, and you get that push in the back of your seat. That's what I prefer. How realistic is Toyota bringing a 4-wheel drive Prius here to North America? I hear that's going to be announced at the LA show this week. So we just have to wait a day or so to find out if it's just a pipe dream or if it is actually happening. So don't have to wait long now. Matt, oh, it's jumped around again. I apologize. While I'm looking here, okay, here we go. What do you think about this new trend to turbocharge small displacement engines so manufacturers can come with EPA tests and advertise good 0 to 60 numbers, sacrificing reliability and customer expense? It depends on the vehicle, right? So if you're doing a small turbocharged in a little car, I haven't got zero issue with that. When you're asking small engines to do big work for SUVs, I'm still like, a perfect example would be, I love the way the CX-9 drives with the turbo 2.5 liter in a 3-row utility vehicle. What's it going to be like for dependability long term? I don't know. The Volvo turbo and supercharged 4-cylinder in the CX-90. I love the way it drives. Is that going to be reliable long term? We're maybe seeing issues with the CR-V now. Just a small 1.5 liter in a vehicle, like the CR-V's actually gotten bigger each version. So I'm kind of with you on this. So that's why if you are somebody that is concerned about this and you don't want to take the risk, there are options in the marketplace. Like you can choose something else. So that is something you might want to factor into your purchase decision. Have you heard of Honda? What's your thoughts on tuning a 10th generation SI, maybe getting a little power instead of going for a Type R? Yeah, there's lots of tuning that's going on in the marketplace. I'm not a tuning expert. Hey, all you need to do is go and find an enthusiast forum for Honda Civic and SI, and there's going to be tons of them because it's such a popular car. You can read all about that. If you're going to be buying a new car, then it's going to avoid warranty. But if you're going to buy a used car, it's out of warranty. It's something you can definitely consider. James says, XT4 or Macan? Well, that's an easy one. It's the Porsche Macan. Now, it depends on what do you want. If you want comfortable, easy to use and quiet and, laid back, then the Cadillac XT4 is fine. If you're wanting a more direct drive, then of course it's the Porsche. For resale value, it's definitely going to be the Porsche. Miss Ann Saab says, hey Zach, could you please review the Ram 1500 Limited? Any ideas? I have done a review of the Ram. Go to the channel and type in Ram. You'll find a review. I went to the launch in California or Arizona, I believe. Yeah, Arizona. Toyota can make reliable, fuel-efficient, naturally aspirated engines and electric hybrids. I believe other manufacturers are taking the easy route at the consumer's expense by turbocharging smaller engines. Well, they have certainly stuck with their guns. I mean, Toyota is a brand that puts reliability and durability at the forefront of the buyer experience, right? So those are things that have to be baked into every Toyota. It has to last a long time. It has to be dependable, low maintenance cost. Now they're working on the X factor, the emotional connection with the car. Do I like the way it looks? Do I like the way it handles? Do I like the way it drives? That's what they're really working on at Toyota. You're seeing that when the Camry came out, edgy, sharp-looking vehicle. You're seeing that with the new RAV4, edgy, sharp-looking, bigger grills, and you're going to see it with the new Corolla. You can maybe go and look at the quick video I did last week when they introduced that car. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that that's another vote for the Nissan Rogue as well, as it's got the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Dave says, bad head gasket caused by the same problems in Subies years ago. Lost an engine to it. Yeah, that has been a problem in the past from Subarus. What do you think of the Atlas versus the Pilot? Thanks, Zach. Now, I'm just not a huge fan of the Pilot. There's something about it I don't know. The Atlas is, I'll do the pros and cons of each. The pro for both is they're both large 3-row utility vehicles. The bigger plus for the Atlas is that it is bigger, okay? Way more room. The second row seat is ginormous. The third row seat, real adults can sit back there, and even when that's up, you even have cargo space behind. So if you just want big, Atlas is the way to go. Of course, the Honda 3.5-liter 6-cylinder is a proven engine. It's been around for a long time, so the engine of that vehicle is fantastic. Same thing for the Atlas. Atlas has the 3.6-liter VR6 engine that has been around for almost 30 years now. It is a gem of an engine. The Honda is going to be the winner on fuel efficiency. The Atlas likes gasoline. It is an older engine. Transmission, 8-speed automatic for the Atlas, and the problem I have with the Honda is it uses the 9-speed ZF transmission on the top touring package. All of the others get the 6-speed, and my advice to anybody is I recommend get the one with the 6-speed. So it comes down to personal taste. So those are kind of the points on each. So advanced safety, there's more advanced safety on lower trim levels of the Pilot than there is of the Atlas. You still, even on the top model, have the Atlas has to pay more to get the forward collision and autonomous braking, where in the Pilot it's cheaper, it's included with the cheaper versions. Does that make sense? Okay. Hey Zach, love your show. You're wearing me out here, man. VW Atlas versus Subaru Ascent as a long-term family car. Same thing. Bigger Atlas. I got to tell you though, the Subaru Ascent, wow, they really impressed me. What a great vehicle. They did an excellent job on that. And so what you need to do now is back over to you. You need to drive it and see which one you like. For long-term family car, the Atlas has a proven engine that's been around for a long time. The Subaru Ascent has a brand new turbocharged engine. So take that for what it is. One has a CVT, the other one has an automatic. So drive them both, and we don't know. Like, here's the thing, long-term reliability, you know, the Atlas has been out for a year and a half or so, and the Subaru just came out. Hayden says, hey Zach, bought a Volkswagen Golf because of this channel. Absolutely love it. Eventually look for an all-wheel drive replacement, Tiguan, or thoughts on the Q3 RDX, etc. The Tiguan is, you can go back and watch the review. It's kind of like, I like to refer it as Audi Light. So when you get the higher spec Tiguans, it comes with a lot of the same technology you're getting in the Audi products. The new Q3 that's coming out in the spring, or closer to summer, is fantastic. They did a great job on that, based, by the way, on the new Tiguan. So there are some similarities there. The RDX, in my opinion, is the vehicle to beat in the lower end price point of premium utility vehicles. So in that 43,000 to 50,000 range, that is a vehicle that I think just kind of runs away with the show, in my opinion. Will Volkswagen Camper EV be available in Canada? So the vehicle you're talking about is the ID Buzz, and you might have seen it in the background. That's the one that looks like the retro multi-window van from the famous 60s vehicles. Yes, so as early as next, what year is, yeah. So 2020, so I'm trying to remember if they said the cars will arrive in 2020 or they're going to be 2020 models, which means some might arrive a year from now, basically heading into 2020. Anyway, it's not that long away. They're going to be introducing 3 vehicles, the ID, which is more like the car, the ID Cross, which is the utility, and the ID Buzz is the bus. And they have said they are going to go into production. So there you go. Originally going to be arriving for the European market and then coming to North America. Just so you know on pricing, the ID car, the one that's more like the sedan, they claim is going to be the same price as a nicely equipped Volkswagen Golf, like sort of the higher end trim Volkswagen Golf. So I think under 40,000. I don't think so, but we'll have to wait and see. Mark says, hi Zach, the best way I've found to test drive a vehicle is I rent them for a weekend. With the first day, within the first day know if I'm going to buy or not. Great show. It is a good way to go. The only issue is with rental cars is sometimes they're just beat on to death. And I've had I had a Camry one time as a rental car, and it was the biggest piece of crap. It must have been driven over railroad tracks for 30,000 kilometers. It just rattled and squeaked, and that's not typical of a Camry. And the other thing is you're not always getting the model that you could actually go and buy. For example, if say you were interested in a Ford Escape SUV and you rent one, well, it might not have the engine in it, because I think it's got 4 engines available. It might not have the engine in it that you're actually going to buy. So that's something to consider. It is a good way to do a test drive, though. If you kind of know you're going to get close to that, it's a good way to go. Hey, Zach, thoughts on the Grand Cherokee Overland versus Summit? I love the Grand Cherokee. My issue is that the higher end ones that you're talking about here become very expensive, and they compete with a lot of German import vehicles. But the Grand Cherokee can do things that really only Porsche Cayenne can do, and the new GLE and Land and Range Rover products, is that it has the available suspension that goes up and down. Now, I guarantee you most people don't use their Grand Cherokee that way, but I'm a big fan of that product. So you have to decide what you want for your needs, but test drive one. I really am a big fan of the Grand Cherokee. Hi from Guadalajara, Mexico. Love your channel. That's from Ivan Lopez. Thanks for watching. Which one will be less problem in the long term, a Land Rover Discovery or a Jeep Wrangler? I think probably the Jeep Wrangler. Land Rover, if you look at quality scores over time, okay, near the bottom of quality scores from J.D. Powers and others are these 2 brands, FCA and Land Rover, okay? Land Rover has come up. FCA, just so you know, because a lot of people beat on FCA, is one of the companies with the fastest improvement, the biggest jump in quality scores they've seen over the last few years have come from FCA. And I think they do a particularly good job with a lot of their Jeep products, because that's where the bread and butter is. So I'm not sure if you're thinking about the brand new Wrangler, but here's another thing to consider. The resale value of Wranglers is very high. And I was just in Mexico. We were down in Puebla there, driving into Mexico City and going on some of the roads. And you pick 2 good vehicles for some, you know, the marginal roads you get in Mexico. So a vehicle that can take bumps and a little bit off-road wouldn't be such a bad thing. I would lean more towards the Wrangler myself. Ted says, hey, Zach, I currently lease a 17 Porsche Macan 2-liter for $595 a month. That's a hell of a deal. What should I get next in the same class next March? Why don't you just keep it? Buy it out. I don't think there's, the only thing I can think of is the Stelvio from Alfa Romeo if you're looking for just handling, but not fit and finish, and the materials used on the inside are not of the same quality. An SQ5, so instead of going to a 2-liter base Macan, maybe go to the twin turbocharged 6-cylinder Audi. So that might be a good one to try. GM closing Oshawa assembly plant. Any comments on the end of an era and the possible impact on the Canadian auto industry? This is going to be a big headache for our federal government, I tell you. Plus the the government in Ontario. I don't know, I just read this before I came on the air here. What I read was that, and so if you're watching outside of Canada, the heart of the auto industry in Canada is in Ontario, Southern Ontario. So the domestic manufacturers, for example, the Ford Edge and a lot of the SUVs that are made in Oakville for Ford. For General Motors out in Oshawa, the other end of the city, and that factory has made so many different vehicles over the years. They had Camaro in there, they had some pickup trucks, they used to have Impala, I believe it was, over the years. They've had Buicks in the past. It's a flex line too, it can do different things. And so you have that. And then FCA has down in Windsor, their minivan assembly plant where they make Pacifica, the Dodge Grand Caravan. Also near Toronto, they do the Chrysler 300 and the Charger and the Challenger. So yeah, the domestic manufacturers are represented in Canada, and the biggest maker of automobiles in Canada is Toyota, and then next is Honda, because the Civic, the CR-V are made in Canada as well. So there is a big production of vehicles in Canada, considering our population is quite small. So losing that is a big, big deal. Now, I don't know all the details. Hopefully, they're going to continue to be making down in Ingersoll the SUVs. So they make the Chevy Equinox down there. So it's going to be a big blow, and it's going to be something that is going to have to be stick handled by the politicians to see. I mean, that could be a big slap in the face of the new NAFTA deal we just signed, because when they signed NAFTA, they didn't get Trump to roll off on the steel tariffs, the aluminum and steel tariffs. What I'm thinking is they will maybe roll off those steel tariffs once the ink is signed, once they've signed the deal, because it still has to get passed through the House in the United States and here in Canada. So we'll wait and see. Maynard Loop says, you told about Canadian Blackberg. I've heard about the Red Book too, but don't know what it is. Could you please throw some light on it? I don't either. If you're looking for a value guide in the Canadian market, Black Book is the one. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile, still one of the better handles we get here on the chat. Good evening, Zach. Which do you prefer more, Mazda 3 hatch or the Volkswagen Golf? Right now, today, I say Volkswagen Golf. This week, they're going to be showing the brand new Mazda 3, okay? So it's going to be the Skyactiv platform. We hope it's going to have, it might have the 2.5 liter turbo as sort of a hot hatch. That would be kind of cool. But I have said in the past, for the price, the Volkswagen Golf, like when you go to Europe, they're everywhere. And, you know, when you're in Europe and you're going to some of those narrow streets and those, you know, great countries in Europe, and you just think, what is the perfect car for here? And often the Golf pops up because it's just the right size. And it's true here. So yeah, everybody's running towards utility vehicles, but it really is just a nice size vehicle. It's got a useful back seat. It's got good cargo space. It's got just enough power. However, they switched this year from the 1.8 liter turbo as the base engine to the 1.4. Now don't do a thumbs down automatically on that, because you need to drive it. The torque is just a little bit less, but you have to drive it, because in the Jetta that has the 1.4, it's a real gem. So don't discount it, and wait this week to see what they're going to announce with Mazda. Rex Van Olmsick. Hey Zach, we recently moved to Seattle from Tokyo. Do you think all-wheel drive and good clearance is a must here? Or a regular front-wheel drive sedan with low clearance is just fine? Now, Seattle is basically our closest neighbor here to Vancouver, where I live. And no, you don't need all-wheel drive, and no, you don't need better ground clearance. If you are going skiing and you're going into the mountains regularly, maybe a consideration. What you need to do is you need to buy good tires, okay? So if you're going to be going anywhere where you might get snow or slippery, invest in a good set of winter tires. So Matt is asking, the future of Genesis, are they doing well in the US? Great cars, value. Hope they stick around and can surpass their poverty level badge prestige. Well, I think that, you know, the way to get around that is to produce good cars. What Genesis needs yesterday, and they don't have, and we're going to have to wait and see, they need a utility vehicle. So they've got two large sedans, okay? The G80 and the G90. Nobody buys those. The market is running away from large sedans, which is one of those things that drives me crazy about Tesla. They always say, oh, we're outselling, you know, the 7 Series, and nobody's buying those cars. They're buying utility vehicles. It's the stupidest comparison I've ever heard. But back to your point. So their real shining star is the G70, which is a fantastic car. I encourage you to watch the review. I did about a month or so ago on the channel. Go watch it. They need an SUV. They have to have an SUV. So that's, now from what I understand, they're going to have 2 SUVs, and they can't come soon enough. Ty says, Hola, Zach, from Southern California. Wanted to get your opinion on the Murano, specifically the reliability of the CVT. Thanks, Zach. Okay. The CVT in the Nissan products, in the larger vehicles, you can look up Pathfinder quality scores for CVT. It doesn't rate that well, okay? They have been problematic. It is technology that has been improved for sure. And other brands, in my opinion, do better CVTs, and that's one area where they were kind of an early adopter and actually had some, for their time, good CVTs. The one thing I will say about the vehicle is it's very smooth, quiet, and refined, and the CVT actually plays a part in that. So if you're somebody that doesn't drive hard and you like a relaxed, smooth, and quiet ride, it actually is a really nice product. It's really nice on the inside. It's not expensive, and you get a V6 instead of a 2-liter turbo, which everybody else is producing. So for that, it does a good job. The CVT is the big question mark. So do yourself a favor, type in quality scores for Pathfinder and for Murano, and enjoy the reading. YH Kim says, front-wheel drive with snow tires is way better than all-wheel drive with four-season tires. I totally agree with you. The tires are the most important thing in the winter. And right here, the gray matter between your ears. You drive sensibly with proper winter tires, you can get pretty much anywhere. Here's a story I always tell. So I know the Canadian market better than the US, for sure. So in the province of Quebec, okay, arguably our snowiest and coldest part for longest in the country, and such a beautiful part of Canada. I love going to Quebec. Quebecers buy the largest number of small subcompact front-wheel drive cars. They get some of the biggest snow dumps and some of the coldest weather. The big difference in Quebec is the only province in Canada and the only jurisdiction I know of in North America that has a mandatory winter tire law. So basically for 4 months, I think it is, of the year, you have to drive on winter tires. And these people can get around their snowy province just fine in small, even subcompact cars with just front-wheel drive, often with manual transmissions, but the biggest determining factor is winter tires. Fatir says, CRV or 2019 RAV4. Any risk in buying a first-year car? I think the engine is the same in RAV4, but body is fully redesigned. No, the engine is new, but it is the same engine that's in Camry. It is the same transmission that's in Camry. It is the same head unit style that's in Camry. It is the same platform that's being used in a bunch of Toyota products. So even though RAV4 is brand new, a lot of this stuff has been out in the marketplace already, okay? So you can see they're pulling from their family, basically their parts bin to produce this car. If I was a betting person on a car company that's going to get it right out of the gate, it would be Toyota, but I understand your reservation. If you really want to be safe, then you can wait that extra year or go to Honda and buy their car. But likelihood is it's going to be pretty good. Flat 6 rules. I got to agree with you there. Hey, look, here's I bought this when I was 11. I went to a toy store and a kid and I bought that. That's cool. Speaking of flat 6s. Hey, Zach, Florida, United States. Why are there so many unsold 911 Carrera T's? I don't know. Why would that be? It's such a great car. I think, and you obviously with your handle, flat 6 rules, probably understand the hierarchy of the stupid Porsche world. I've owned 4 Porsches, I've owned 2 Carreras, a C4S and a C2S. There's this sort of stupid mentality that a lot of Porsche owners have. They look down their nose at something that isn't an S. And they look down their nose if it's a Carrera at a Boxster or a Cayman, which is nonsense, because the Boxster and the Cayman are actually the best deal in the Porsche family. They're wonderful cars, they're the least expensive, and some of them are the most fun. So my only thing I can think of with the 911T is that it doesn't have an S on the back. It's not an S. If it was a Carrera ST, for example, it would probably sell like crazy. I think that's all it is. I think it's just people have their head up their ass when it comes to what is a good car. I had a chance to drive it on the track, and I got to tell you, it is awesome. And if I was in the market, and I'm not, to buy a brand new Carrera, if I couldn't afford a GT3 Touring, and you can't get one anyway, that would be a hell of a car. Ted says, hey Zach, wife's lease is ending soon on a 2017 Cooper S. Quality is terrible. What do you recommend next? He pays $270 a month. Well, is that the kind of vehicle you're looking for? A small, little, fun-to-drive car? And you know what? I like the way that Minis drive. I personally wouldn't own one because I've heard a lot of these quality issues, and I don't like the buttons and the switches on the dashboard. I always think that somebody threw up buttons all over the dashboard, and I don't like I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. of something that you could lease that is just as fun as that? Have you got any that you've got in mind? That would be easier for you. If you've got a few that you're thinking of, then put them in and I'll answer your question. But let me think of it for a second. Steven says, hey, Zach from New York, talk a little bit about the apparent disappointment of small hatchbacks, disappearance, I should say, of small hatchbacks, i.e. the Focus, the Fiesta, the Cruise, etc. With urban practicality, fun factor, and gas prices still volatile, what gives? It's marketing and trend, you know, it's the keeping up with the Joneses. You know, Sally down the street's got a new SUV, I want one too, you know, and I don't know. I think we live in a society today where people are overbuying. Okay, you have people saying, "I want an electric car, but it's got to have 8,000 miles of range." No, you don't need that. Most people would the 200 kilometers or 130 or 40 miles of range is probably all they need. And so people are overbuying, and they're buying bigger vehicles with all-wheel drive. They sit up higher, and they like that. And to the detriment of the car business, and that you're seeing that over and over. You're going to see vehicles that are just sitting there and nobody are buying them. So if you are somebody that wants a really good commuter vehicle and you want to save money, you know, a hatchback car with a fun to drive, you know, 4-cylinder engine, even a manual if you're into that, these vehicles offer a great opportunity, and they handle better. You sit a little bit lower. I don't get it myself, but hey, listen, we have an SUV, you know, because that's the family vehicle of choice these days. I think it's kind of interesting. There's going to be certain winners and losers. The brands that have done small cars the best over the long period of time, the Hondas and the Toyotas, are going to continue to make them. And then you're going to have some, like Volkswagen with the Golf and the Jetta, are still going to bring them in. And then you have the Korean cars as well. So they're not all going away. But if they want people to buy these cars, they're going to have to be really good cars. That's too bad, though. Excuse me. Zaki says, what do you think of the electronic corrosion control module I purchased, if I purchase a Mazda CX-5? The best rust protection system, in my opinion, is Crown or Rust Check. That's what I would do. If you want to keep a vehicle long-term in Canada with salt, those two are the best. I don't really know much about I've seen these electronic corrosion systems. I don't really know if they work, but I do know that Rust Check and Crown do work. Have you ever reviewed a vehicle, liked it, disliked it, and then after a while completely formed a different opinion of it, perhaps due to reliability or some other factors? What was I driving recently? Well, you know, I have been here on the channel talking about Acura cars. I'm still not a huge fan of the TLX, but I got the ILX back. I have it this week. It's parked in front of the house right now. So it's been a few years since I've driven that car. And I kind of, in my head, when I went to pick it up, I had a sort of a vision in my head of what I remembered it being like. And then when I drove it, I'm like, this is a great car. I really like this little car. It's not the newest. It's got some older in-dash technology, but boy, for the price, it's a great car. Was there a car that I changed my mind on? I can't think of things right off the top of my head. And I want the person that just asked about the release for the for Ted. Ted, if you want to just write back, I want to get you an answer if you can give me some ideas of what the cars you're trying to buy for your wife. Okay, let me see here. We're kind of up against the clock. I think what I want to do is, once again, thanks for watching the channel. Watch this, wristwatch. Watch this is my YouTube channel about watches. If you're interested, a lot of people that are interested in cars are interested in watches. And I have committed in my head. So what I do is I have all of this set up for my live chat. And then the next day, tomorrow, I'll tape some segments for my YouTube channel about watches. So I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? Now I've figured it out. So each week when I do one of these, I'll do a video also for my Watch This channel. So if you're into wristwatches at all, go over there and check it out. I just put a video up about all the watches that I wear all the time. It's kind of interesting. Also, Instagram is Motormouth_auto and Facebook is Motormouth. And like that, I put news stories up there and some silly videos and things. So thank you very much for that. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize, but I do read them all even when I'm done here. So thanks to everybody that came on board here today and joined the live chat. We'll do it again next week. And if you're in the United States, enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see you next weekend. Bye now.